At least 6 are dead after a pedestrian bridge at Florida International University's Miami campus collapsed less than a week after being installed. To former Texas Railroad Commissioner Mary Scott Nabers on the concerns over infrastructure in this country. Mary Scott, thanks for joining us. Your initial thoughts on this tragedy?
Well, Charles, it's very important to remember that this tragedy really has nothing to do with our crumbling infrastructure, which is just as dangerous. This was a new project. It was a project that wasn't even finished. It was a project that was being done through what they call ABC construction. That's advanced bridge or accelerated bridge construction, where you bring in prefab units for a bridge. That was a tragic accident. We have horrible infrastructure problems, though. We have 56,000 unsafe bridges that have been declared defective, unsafe, and we're not doing anything to fix those. So we have a major infrastructure problem, and we have a horrible tragedy in Florida, but they're not exactly the same thing.
Sure. Could we glean from this, though, that there won't be an easy answer? In other words, this
Yes.
sort of virtual construction and prefabrication and things like that, and that maybe putting even more emphasis on the fact that the challenges that we face, we should probably tackle them sooner rather than later.
We absolutely should tackle them sooner. And that construction, interestingly enough, is being used by the Departments of Transportation in every state now. The prefab, that's not supposed to be dangerous. There were probably some other problems with that project. But you were just talking about cybersecurity for our power grids. We have 80% of our power grids in the United States that are also decades beyond their life expectancies. That is very dangerous. We have no airports anymore in the top 25 in the world. That's horrible for our economic leadership status globally. So we do have major infrastructure problems, and hopefully Congress is going to finally, one of these days, get around to addressing them somehow.
Yeah, well, they all talk about it on the campaign trail, don't they?
They certainly do.
Yeah.
My message to Congress at this point would be, you don't have $1 trillion. We all understand that. You're not going to find $1 trillion. So why not encourage some alternative funding? We've got foundations, we've got investors, we've got public pension funds waiting to invest in infrastructure projects, and we need that funding. We need to get started.
Yeah, I think there's some pushback about the idea of privatizing or a profit motive solution to this, but to your point, it's a realistic alternative to get things done. Another problem I think has been just the regulatory hurdles. We had the big so-called stimulus plan, and I don't know where the money went, but certainly a small percentage actually went to construction or reconstruction in this country.
It's so hard for the federal government to oversee anything that massive, and yes, we did have problems. Most of our infrastructure reform is going to happen at the county level, at the city level, in the regions, and so that's probably a very good thing. But the bridges and the water treatment plants, we have about 80% unsafe public water. So, I mean, you can almost name any industry sector, and we need to address it. But those fixes are going to happen in the regions. So hopefully, if Congress can find a way to support infrastructure, endorse some outside funding, some alternative funding, because in our lifetime, we're not going to be able to find $1 trillion.
Yeah.
And by the time they search for a couple more years, it could be $2 trillion that we need, and we will have bridges collapsing.
And we don't want to see any more of these tragedies or more bridges collapse. Mary, thank you very much.
That's true.
Well, right now, down the